Hey, Lasso. So I've made a little project for you to look at that would be a good example of while loop. So to start here, I have a counter. This counter is kind of where everything starts. You have to have the counter set so that way it can kind of keep track of where you are in the loop. So this keeps track of where you are in the. I'm just gonna make my screen just a bit bigger so I can follow on the line. So here's our while, and what it does is it just checks to see if this is true. Um, as long as this is true, it stays and continues to repeat what is within the while loop. So it repeats this stuff. And then once this is no longer true, you exit out of the while loop and you go down here to the text that's below. So I first checks to see if counter is less than 10, which to start it's 0. So it's obviously going to be less than 10. It's going to say you're in the while loop. It's going to print the counter is at counter. And so the first round is going to be at 0. And then the plus equals, I'm going to add 1 to the counter. So this is a key part. This increments our value. So this is our incrementer. And make sure that we are not in an infinite loop, but that we're actually um, this makes sure that our loop is progressing and not an infinite loop. So that's important as well. And usually you can do more things with just a while loop than just count. But for now, we'll just kind of keep it to that. When I run the code, it happens really fast. So basically, it repeats. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And at 9, we're still less than 10. And at 10, it would basically, in the 10th repetition, realize that, well, we're now equal to 10 and it would be no longer true. So this statement would be false and it would exit out and say, you're now out of the while loop. You're now out of the while loop. So I thought to myself, that might be a little bit difficult to kind of understand. So what I had, where did it go? I had another tab open. Give me a second to see if I can get that other tab open. I'll copy my code. And what we'll do is we'll trace this out to see what happens and see if that's helpful for you to see it get traced out. Where did that go? To see if that getting that traced out would be helpful to you. I just have too many tabs open here. This should get me to there. So give me a second. Unit 3, decisions. So I have too many tabs open. So now in our visualizer, I'm going to walk through our code one line at a time. So this is the line that we're about to execute. So when I execute that, we first set our counter to 0, like we said. Next, we check to see if it's less than 10. We're about to see and print that we're in the while loop. So we are now in the while loop. Our counter is at 0. And in this line here, we're about to do, we'll change our counter value by 1. Now the while loop is going to check to see if counter is less than 10, which it is. It's at 1. We then enter back into the while loop. And so we get the feedback. We're in the while loop. We're now going to see what the counter is at. And the counter is going to be at 1 because we've now increased it. We're now going to increment it up to another level. So now our counter is at 2. And this kind of continues. So we kind of just keep repeating this. And as long as our counter is less than 10, we stay within and keep looping within this while loop. And the while loop is very powerful because this checking to see if this is true is what kind of lets you enter into or exit out of the while loop, as opposed to a for loop, which has a set amount of repeats. So this continues and continues. I'm just going to speed up my clicking. I want to get close to the end. Okay, so now we're at 9. So at this point here, our counter is at 9. We've printed that we're in the while loop. We can print that, the counter is at 9. We then increment the counter up 1 to make it 10. We're now going to check to see if the counter is less than 10, which it is not. So when we run this statement right here is false. And as a result of it being false, we then hop down here to you're out of the while loop because it will not run this code if this is false. So we then go next, and we're out of the while loop because that is false. And that's the gist of how a while loop works. I'm not sure how to